Okay, so get this. We're going to look at something a little bit odd. This is something kind of funny.
Okay.
But it's in a serious part of the Bible.
All right.
We're talking about the arrest of Jesus.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know, Garden of Gethsemane. Tensions high, disciples are about to run.
Yeah.
But did you ever notice
What?
that there's this weird little detail
Uh-huh.
about some guy, a linen cloth? There's super fast getaway.
It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it?
Right. It's like, what is going on?
Yeah, you're reading this intense scene, and then boom, this picture of a guy running off naked.
Yeah. It's like something out of Monty Python.
Right.
But it's in the Gospel of Mark.
Mark chapter 14,
Yeah.
verses 51 and 52, to be exact.
Oh, okay.
Mark says this guy having a linen cloth cast about his naked body.
Uh-huh.
But then when the guards tried to grab him, he left the linen cloth and fled from them naked.
It's so specific, though. Like,
Yeah.
why did Mark even include that?
That's the million-dollar question. Right.
I mean, most scholars agree that Mark's Gospel was probably the first one written.
Uh-huh.
And for centuries, people have debated who this guy was.
Oh, wow.
And what he's doing there.
Okay, let's get into it.
Huh.
So one theory is that it was Mark himself.
Oh.
Just like for making a little appearance.
That's a popular theory.
It is.
And it could be true.
I mean, I guess so.
Mark was likely part of that early Christian community in Jerusalem.
Uh-huh.
So he could have been there.
Yeah. But wouldn't that be a little embarrassing, though?
Well,
I mean, he's saying he's writing about the life of Jesus, and then he's like, oh, yeah, and I was there, and I freaked out and ran away half naked.
But see, that's what makes it interesting.
Oh, really?
Some scholars say that actually makes Mark's account more believable. Because he's not making himself or the disciples look perfect.
No.
He's showing that they were human.
Yeah.
They got scared.
Uh-huh.
And they wanted to run away when things got dangerous.
Like normal people would.
Okay, but what if it wasn't Mark?
Good question.
What are some other ideas?
Well, there's another theory
Okay.
that says the naked guy represents all the disciples abandoning Jesus.
Oh.
It's not just about him running away physically. It's about losing everything,
Yeah.
even their clothes.
Wow.
Because they were so scared and uncertain.
That's powerful.
It really is.
It shows the difference between Jesus
Yes.
standing strong and his followers who, well,
Yeah, not so much.
this little detail makes you think
It does.
about what it means to really follow someone
Absolutely.
and what faith means when things get tough.
It makes you dig deeper.
It's like I'm seeing this story for the first time,
Yeah.
noticing things I never did before.
That's the beauty of really getting into these texts.
Uh-huh.
It's often the small details
Yeah.
that have the most meaning.
Okay, so we have this naked guy.
Right.
Maybe it's Mark. Maybe it's a symbol of the disciples giving up.
It's open to interpretation.
What does this tell us about how Mark wrote his gospel?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing about Mark is that he shows Jesus and his followers as real people.
Uh-huh.
He doesn't hide their emotions, their doubts, even when they mess up.
So he's not trying to make everything perfect and clean.
No, he's giving us a glimpse of what it was really like
Oh, wow.
to be part of this movement.
The raw, messy reality.
Exactly. And I think that makes Mark's gospel relatable.
Yeah, I see that.
Even today, we see ourselves in these characters.
Yeah.
Their struggles, their fears, their moments of bravery and cowardice.
It's like he's saying, hey, these were normal people just like you and me.
Exactly.
Trying to figure things out.
That's powerful.
It is. And it reminds us that faith isn't about being perfect.
Right.
It's about dealing with all the messy stuff of life.
The ups and downs, the doubts and questions, and finding meaning even when things are tough.
This is giving me so much to think about.
Me too.
You know what I find really interesting?
What's that?
If this random detail made it into the gospel,
Yeah.
what other little gems are hidden in there?
That is a great question.
It makes you think
It does.
that we need to look deeper.
Beyond the surface.
Yeah, and find those unexpected treasures.
I agree.
So even though the naked guy might seem like a funny little side story,
Yeah.
it fits into a bigger pattern in Mark's gospel.
Right.
He's always showing us the human side of things, the humor, the irony,
Yeah.
the things that make these characters feel real.
Absolutely.
And let's look at another example to see what I mean.
So there's this story about the Syrophoenician woman. And it can be easy to miss what's going on
Okay.
if you don't see how Mark uses irony and humor.
Oh, I'm not as familiar with that one.
Oh, okay.
Can you remind me what happens?
Sure. So in Mark chapter 7,
Okay.
there's this woman, a Gentile,
Okay.
and she's begging Jesus to heal her daughter.
Uh-huh.
But at first, Jesus kind of brushes her off.
Really?
Yeah, he even says something kind of harsh.
Like what?
He says, It is not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs.
Well, that sounds a little insensitive.
Yeah, it does, right?
Yeah.
But here's where Mark is so clever.
Okay.
He's setting us up for a twist.
Oh,
A moment of unexpected grace.
I see.
Instead of being offended, the woman uses Jesus' words against him.
Oh,
She says, "Yes, Lord, yet even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs."
she got him there.
Right, she's not backing down.
No, she's not.
And Jesus is impressed,
By her wit.
yes, by her wit and her faith. So he heals her daughter
Wow.
and praises her for her faith.
So this whole exchange,
Yeah.
it shows that Jesus was willing to challenge the rules
Exactly.
and recognize faith even in people who weren't supposed to have it.
He saw beyond those boundaries.
Yeah. And Mark uses irony and humor to make that point.
Precisely.
This is fascinating.
It is, isn't it?
Mark is playing with our expectations, using humor to turn things upside down,
Yeah.
and show us a message about inclusivity and grace.
And that playful element,
Yeah.
it pops up all over Mark's gospel.
Really?
He's always challenging us to think deeper,
Okay.
to see the humor even in serious situations,
Right.
and recognize how powerful faith is.
Even when it's messy and unpredictable.
That's right.
It's like Mark is saying, hey, laugh with me.
Yeah.
See how silly people can be,
Uh-huh.
and look at how God works in unexpected ways.
I love that.
This is making me want to read Mark again.
You should.
Yeah, and pay attention to all those little hints of humor and irony.
You'll find a whole new layer of meaning.
Okay, so we've talked about the naked guy,
Right.
the Syrophoenician woman, and this undercurrent of humor in Mark.
It's there.
I wonder if there's a connection
What do you mean?
between these human moments
Yeah.
and the overall message of Mark's gospel.
That's a great observation.
Is there?
I think Mark is saying something big about faith and being a disciple.
What do you mean?
By showing us these very human moments,
Okay.
he's saying that faith isn't about being perfect. It's not about always knowing the right answers
Okay.
or never messing up.
Yeah.
It's about embracing the mess.
The mess of being human.
Exactly. The doubts, the fears, the failures,
Yeah.
and finding meaning in all of that.
So it's not about being a perfect follower,
Right.
but a human one.
Yes, exactly. And that's a message that really speaks to us today.
Why is that?
Because we're always bombarded with images of perfection.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Mark reminds us that it's okay to be flawed, to
Yeah.
make mistakes,
Yeah.
to have doubts.
Yeah.
We can still find grace and acceptance.
This is so freeing.
It is, isn't it?
It's like he's saying, be yourself
Yeah.
with all your imperfections.
And find grace in the midst of it all.
And that's a message that we need to hear.
Now more than ever.
Okay, so we're seeing this pattern.
Yeah.
Mark showing us human moments, using humor and irony to show us deeper truths.
Right.
And ultimately saying something about what faith really is.
Exactly.
You mentioned earlier that Mark was probably written first. Does that change how we read the other Gospels?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
We need to remember that each gospel writer had their own audience, their own purpose,
Okay.
their own way of looking at things.
So they're all drawing from the same source.
Yes, the same stories and teachings about Jesus.
But they tell it in different ways.
Exactly.
So we shouldn't expect them to all be exactly the same.
Right, and that's what makes studying them so interesting.
How so?
We get to see how these different writers understood Jesus
Yeah.
and how they presented him.
Each with their own perspective.
Yes,
So how does Mark's focus on human moments compared to the others?
good
Do
question.
we see the same thing in Matthew, Luke, and John?
You definitely see echoes of it,
Yeah.
but each writer has their own style.
Okay.
Matthew presents Jesus as fulfilling the Jewish prophecies.
Oh, interesting.
He's the Messiah. Luke is known for his compassion.
Oh.
He focuses on how Jesus cared for the poor and the outcasts.
And John.
John is the most mystical.
Oh,
He
wow.
focuses on Jesus's divine nature
Oh, wow.
as the Word of God.
So they're all telling the same story.
Yes, but through different lenses.
It's amazing
Yeah.
how much depth and complexity there is in the Bible.
Right.
It's not just one simple story.
No, it's a tapestry of stories,
Yeah.
each with its own perspective and insights.
And comparing them
Yeah.
gives us a richer understanding of Jesus.
And what his message meant.
This is making me realize
But
that there's so much to explore in the Bible.
there is. It's a timeless text.
Uh-huh.
Always something new to discover.
Always something to challenge us.
Absolutely.
This has been so enlightening.
I'm glad to hear that.
I'm seeing the Bible in a new way,
That's good.
especially Mark's gospel.
Uh-huh.
But I feel like there's more to uncover.
I agree.
What other insights can we gain? From looking at these human moments in Scripture, it's funny, isn't it?
Mm.
We often go to the Bible looking for big answers,
Yeah.
big pronouncements,
Mm-hmm.
these huge theological statements.
Right.
But what we're finding is
Yeah.
sometimes the most important insights come from these little human moments.
It's true. We often overlook them,
We do.
thinking they're not important.
Yeah.
But as we saw with Mark,
Yeah.
those little moments can tell us so much.
They can
Give us a glimpse into the real humanity.
of the people and the world they lived in.
Exactly.
And it's not just Mark, right?
No, it's not.
We see this throughout the Bible.
Absolutely. Even in the Old Testament.
Yeah, like with David.
Yes, David is a great example.
We think of him as this great king,
Yeah, a legend.
but the Bible shows his flaws too.
It does.
His weaknesses, his sins.
Right. He's not just some perfect hero
He's a real person,
with good and bad qualities.
capable of great things
Yeah.
and terrible things.
Exactly. And that's what makes these stories so powerful.
Why is that?
They don't sugarcoat things.
Yeah.
They show us the messy reality of being human.
With all its ups and downs.
So its contradictions.
It's like the Bible is saying, look, even the best of us mess up.
Yeah.
You're not alone in being human.
That's a message that speaks to everyone.
No matter what time period or culture.
It's about the human condition.
Yeah. Our vulnerability.
Our capacity for both good and evil.
Our constant struggle to figure things out.
Exactly.
But doesn't that make the Bible seem less authoritative?
What do you mean?
Like, if these are just stories about flock people, what makes them sacred?
That's a question that's been around for centuries.
I said, really?
But I think the power of these stories comes from their humanness.
Really?
It's because they're about real people
Uh-huh.
that they connect with us so deeply.
So the imperfections make them more meaningful.
I think so. They make them relatable,
Yeah.
accessible, and ultimately more powerful.
We see ourselves in these characters.
We do.
Their struggles, their triumphs.
They're moments of grace and failure.
And that makes us feel less alone.
It reminds us that we're all in this together.
It's like we're part of the story.
Yes, not just reading it.
And through that,
Yeah.
we can learn and grow.
We discover our own truths.
And our own connection to something bigger.
Absolutely.
This is changing how I see the Bible.
That's great.
It's not just a book of rules.
Yeah.
It's a reflection of what it means to be human
It shows us who we are.
and who we can be.
Exactly.
This has been an amazing conversation.
I agree.
I feel like we've just scratched the surface.
There's always more to explore.
Yeah.
The Bible is full of wisdom and inspiration.
It keeps on giving.
It does.
So what should our listeners take away from this?
I want them to remember
Yeah.
that the Bible isn't just a history book or a rule book.
Uh-uh.
It's a reflection of the human experience,
Okay.
a mirror that shows us our hearts and minds.
I like that.
And it's in those human moments,
Yeah.
the humor, the irony, the struggles, the grace,
Yeah.
that we find the most profound truths
Truths about ourselves.
in our connection to something greater.
That's a great way to put it. I think we should end this deep dive with a laugh.
I like that.
It's a reminder
Yeah.
that even when we're talking about serious things,
Yeah.
there's always room for joy.
Absolutely.
Laughter connects us.
It does.
It heals us.
Uh-huh.
And it reminds us
What?
that even when things are tough,
Yeah,
the human spirit is strong.
it is.
So to our listeners,
Yeah.
go and embrace the human side of the Bible.
Look for those funny moments,
The irony,
the messiness.
the beauty of human experience.
You might be surprised by what you find.
And if you come across a talking donkey,
Or a naked guy running away.
let us know.
We're always up for a good deep dive.
Until next time,
Yeah.
keep searching, keep questioning.
And keep laughing.
We'll see you then.